Welcome everybody to Living Consciously TV, coming to you live from our Denver, Colorado studios. We are streaming on YouTube Live as well as Hangouts and at ConsciousEvolutionMedia.com. Come and join us. I'm your host and moderator, of course, Steve Toth, and also the founder of Conscious Evolution Media, going on like 12 years now. Our theme this evening is a fantastic theme, a journey to the core of the universal understanding. And we have some fantastic guests with us, as always. And our guests this evening is Graham and Monica Burwise, and both of them are joining us actually from Canada, our friendly country up north, Canada. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi. Hello. All right, and of course, let me introduce the rest of the cast. We have right in the middle there, we have Linda Dyer, and she's joining us from that place where the kangaroos are always roaming 24/7. That would be Australia. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I don't see too many around here. However, when I go into the country, it proves your point. Yes.
They are there. They are there. I know they are there. All right. So, and last but not least, we have Susie Verdi, who's joining us from that place where the lights actually never, ever go out, and that would be the Big Apple, New York City. Welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody. Good evening.
And we have a dumb device ringing, but that's all right. So I love the theme. It sounds like we're going to go on some kind of a journey, and I love journeys. So let's begin with what is it to be a human being? And maybe each one of us can share our own understanding. Let's begin with our guest cast, Monica and Graham. What is it like to be a human being?
It's a fantastic experience, right? I think it is a whole life journey to discover what that means to be a human being. It's not, there's no simple answer to that, and we can look at that from a different perspectives and at different levels, of course, and we can look from the ultimate perspective and kind of subjective perspective, which is that is the human body, and that is Monica, and that is Graham, and we can elaborate on that, or we can take a little bit who am I and go deeper within and find out really that this persona really is the idea of ourselves, and we can go into investigation who we really are. So it's a very kind of complex question. And I know Graham has some ideas of his own. That was tricky, right? Just to put it on him.
Well, I was actually going to say something very similar to what you said. It's yeah, I think it's a rather unique experience. Everybody gets one ticket when at birth, and we kind of find out as we go. And I don't think there's, I think, you know, if you were to ask that question to 100,000 people, you probably get 100,000 different answers. It's a very subjective, personal experience.
Yeah. Well, I was curious about yours.
Well, all I can say is I'm having fun.
Okay, great. Fantastic. All right. What about you, Linda?
Oh, always having fun. And for me, I think it's about who you be, who you decide to be as a part of your life's experiences growing up, and the more I be who I think I was meant to put on the planet for, the more I'm enjoying my real life experience about being human, which is quite interesting. I think I learned a lot from when my mum died, and I actually for the first time saw a physical body, and it dawned on me that was her body, that was her human body, but it wasn't her. For some reason, I could see that the soul, that personality that my mum had, and that always telling people that they were amazing, wasn't there anymore, and it really brought home that we borrow this external thing that Monica was talking about, we borrow this external body that we live in, and what we really do as humans, as Graham said, is very, very unique. I'm just loving, the more I'm living, the more I'm calming and enjoying what it's all about.
Awesome. And you, Susie?
I think I would agree with everything that was said, and I would perhaps just add that I think we have even an existence as humans in a planetary scheme as well. So here on planet Earth, we're passing, we're having a human experience, spirits having a human experience, and then there are also brothers and sisters out there. I personally had a connection, close connection with some of them, and so I have no doubts that they exist. So the first thing that happened to me when that occurred in the past was, oh my God, are they humans? Are they not? Do they have a body? They certainly have a spirit like I do. And if they live in the same universe, what kinds of codes and what kinds of values they share with us humans. So I think as far as I can understand right now, being human is related to being on planet Earth and having an experience from the baby time to the elderly, passing through maturity and young age, and having all the scopes of emotions and learnings, and coming back and back and back and back many times in human bodies. So I think it's a tremendous journey and a privilege to be on the planet right now as human. Yeah.
Let me add here, because kind of I love those questions because they are such a funny questions, because the whole concept, the reason why I would, for example, start discussing even that question itself is that human being, for me, it doesn't even go hand in hand. There's a human and then there's a being. The human being, we kind of labeled a human being as our persona, and that's why the difficulty is the being is a completely different thing and the human is a completely different thing. So the human being, really, if we investigate it, it doesn't really go together. So it's a tricky question if you put it this way.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I have asked thousands of people throughout the last 12 years who came up with the word human, and so far nobody could tell me. Like, who do we credit the word human?
I believe it comes from the root word humus, which means from the earth. It means, from the dust.
Interesting. All right.
Which is biblical in a way.
So,
yeah.
So let me share my version of what it is for me. So for me, it's I've been on this journey, I feel, and it's unfolding, and it's still unfolding, and I'm just realizing these days that I'm experiencing pretty much everything as a game, and I'm experiencing that all these games that we play, that I am the programmer, and I'm the programmer of the game, and I'm playing in the game, and that I'm creating it all is where I'm at with this thing. And I don't know where it's going from here, but it's very interesting because everybody knows, the people that know me knows that I love to laugh, and what I'm experiencing is, as I'm experiencing these games that we play, like everything, from politics to religion to everything is a game with tons of rules that we create, and I'm kind of getting it that I'm the creator of it all for my experience. And I'm chuckling even more. So I'm having even more fun than I have ever had before because it's funny.
Well, that's exactly right. I think we're very funny. Every time I teach people about health, it's the first statement I make. I said, hand up those who think that we're funny, because we want to have a different result, but we don't want to change what we do. or who we be. And I think, yeah, when I love sitting down in a shopping centre or somewhere and just observing people. I think we're fascinating.
So here comes my philosopher kind of part, and I would definitely in that situation ask you, Steve, who is the I that is experiencing the game? Who is the I that you are talking about?
Well, I am the creator of it all. I am one with the creator.
But who is the I?
There is no I, and if there has to be an I, it's the ego. But it feels like, for me, it feels like, and this kind of blows people away, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's my recent experience. The recent last 2 months is I'm experiencing that I am God. I am the creator. I am creating this experience. Everything that's happening is my creation. And this is why Jesus was killed, by the way, because he was trying to tell us this, that's how powerful we are. People cannot be with this kind of power, and I haven't explored all that power because it's unfolding, but the fact that I'm awake to it is completely amazing to me. I'm at an awe when I recognize that this game that I'm in, and the game is really begun at the very beginning, and it's in the Bible. It began with good and evil, and ever since good and evil has been around, all of humanity has been in trouble because we take sides. It has to be good or bad, or it has to be black and white, or
hang on
it has
there
to
a
be...
minute.
Go ahead.
There's a bit of a tricky thing to that, because originally there wasn't good and evil. We defined them. We were given the power to choose, to look at things and discern them one way or the other, and we decided to separate things into what we perceive as good.
Who is we?
Humanity.
Was that Adam and Eve?
Well, whoever.
That's just a very good story.
Yeah, it's a good story. Yeah.
In the mythology, yeah, we basically.
That's a game.
We attained the power to discern between good and evil, and it's misinterpreted, I think. When people look at that story from the Bible, they see it as a positive thing, this ability to discern between good and evil. But that's, in essence, one of our downfalls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get stuck. We get stuck in duality.
Essentially, there is no good and evil.
No, there isn't.
Everything has both. It's a duality. So if we perceive something to be good, we're ignoring a whole part of its existence that has a negative effect on yourself, somebody else, the rest of humanity, whatever. So what we do is we confine ourselves, and we disconnect ourselves from that big picture, or from that sense of what you're talking about, is experiencing yourself as God, or as the I, or in psychology they call it the superconsciousness. So yeah, that I just wanted to point that out, that the good and evil thing is one of our, it's the perception of that causes most of humanity's problems.
Yes, and it comes to the perception, exactly, because if you really think about this, what is good for you, it might not be good for me, and what is bad for you might not be bad for me. So what is really defined by good and bad? And that's the same right and wrong. The right and wrong and the good and bad appear somewhere. And finding the place in which they both appear is really the idea to find self, and it's that investigation to go beyond the good and bad. And what I usually do, or what we usually do when we work with people, we ask them to be like a camera lens. If you take a picture right now, for example, of what is really happening, on the camera lens is not judgmental. It doesn't have a story. It will just take a snapshot of what is, right? And if we practice, for example, to be like a camera lens without the judgment, and I have obviously myself, we soon realize that there is no such a thing as good and bad, or right and
But
wrong.
here's the thing, Monica. The camera lens is not taking the picture. The camera lens is just a lens, just like our eye is just an eye, it's just a lens.
Exactly.
Who creates the picture is the mind.
If you see like the tree of life, and you start from unity, Kether, unity, immediately it divides itself into two. So two is a way of the one perceiving itself. So it doesn't mean that our essence is not one, but on the level in which we experience reality, we need duality so that we can learn with duality. And part of what we are here in this planet to do is to learn about how we can integrate duality. It doesn't mean that in essence we are duality, but it has a very good function. So if there weren't light, we wouldn't know exactly what is day. And if there wasn't cold, we wouldn't know exactly what is hot. So hot is not bad, cold is not good, light is not bad, dark is not evil. But, there's a way in which opposites teach us about unity. So I think that there's a way in which we don't necessarily need to judge, but to recognize that duality has a very important function. Even men and women, there is dualities everywhere, if you look around. And yet, if we become judgmental about, what duality is doing, then we have fragmented ourselves. But to deny that in many, many circumstances we experience duality, even in our emotions and the way we perceive things, is to almost like deny our humanness and our capacity to, through those polarities, evolve into something else. So I think it is actually very important.
Okay, so I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. Is that okay, Susie?
Of course, this is a debate.
And I love you.
And I love you too.
Here's where I'm going to disagree with you, okay? Because I'm experimenting with this myself right now, and I'm attempting to get above duality, and the way I'm getting above duality is to allow. I'm allowing all the experiences that I'm experiencing, moment to moment.
I didn't deny that.
Okay.
We are talking about the same thing, so you're not disagreeing with me.
So I just noticed for myself that anytime I take a side, like I'm for this, and believe me, I am an expert at taking sides because I grew up in a communist country and I hated them. And I didn't know back then what I know today, but I hated the communists, and I basically went into war against them. Well, that's no different than what humanity has been doing for the last 2,000 years. We haven't learned a damn thing. So what I'm experiencing right now with myself is that I'm going through my daily life, and I just allow. It doesn't matter to me if I'm experiencing something negative or something positive. I recognize that if something is negative, it has to be there in order to have the opposite effect. So I agree with you 100%. The duality has to be there. But I recognize for myself, this is for me, not for anybody else, that duality is a trap.
Mm-hmm.
It's a trap.
Yeah.
And the way I'm finding my way out of it is to rise above it by allowing all experiences to be what they are in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you in that, the problem with some of these subjects is that the language isn't really designed to talk about this stuff very well. It's a very cold, physically based thing. What I've discovered is that when it comes to duality in terms of our perception of things, if you find yourself separating things into some sort of dualistic thing, generally what most people are doing is they're looking at one side of it. If you can try and open yourself to perceive both sides, what happens is they collapse into a single thing. So the duality of it goes away, and it no longer has any bearing on you in a sense. It doesn't affect you.
Well,
You're not bothered by it.
Let me add something to that. I feel that what most people are doing is that they're looking for something, and whatever it is that they're looking for it outside of themselves. So on this network, for years now, we've been talking about telling people or recommending that to them to go inside. The answers are all here within ourselves.
But my question, and I've heard that in one of your interviews, my question would be, what is the inside? What are you referring to as an inside?
What I'm referring to the inside, when I'm referring to that, I'm referring to the creator, you the creator, the power that we all have.
But are you talking about this persona, this unit, Monica, let's say, or Steve? That's what you are.
We are not this unit. This is all energy.
Exactly. That's what I'm asking for.
Yeah. No, I'm not referring. I'm referring to the unlimited potentiality that we are. We are everything there is. I am everything there is.
Yes, but remember that in the potential, the whole universal potentiality, there is no inside and outside.
Right, but I am experiencing, the God, is experiencing myself through this experience. This is an unfolding. This is I'm experiencing who I am, which is I am everything and all of it, through this experience, this body, this thing, this body bag, because that's where I am right now.
I would say it's not inside, outside in the physical sense. It's a deeper level of perception of who you are. So, you know, the more you perceive things from a more central core perspective, then obviously you're going to get answers that are more according to that level of perception. So some people say inside. But
so when I'm talking about inside, and this is going back to what
this is like we're not a box. It's
what
just
what Graham said. Language is very limited. I get really frustrated these days about language because I cannot find words. Words have not been invented yet for me to explain. And we're on a TV show. Explain the experiences that I'm having and other people are having. It's like, okay, so how do you explain this inside-outside thing? Well, for me, the way I got to this is through meditation. I quieted my mind, and I call that going inside because obviously, for me, that's not being outside. I quieted everything. I quieted all the noise, and I'm just being with me, and I'm connected to who? I'm connected to the bigger, larger, whatever words you want to use of who I am. And I am infinite possibility. I am infinity. I am energy. I don't know what other words to use. Help.
Well, language is a way of expression consciousness. Our language is limited because our human consciousness has been very limited. The more we progress, other ways of communicating reality will be available.
Yeah. So I'm interested in going beyond my five senses. You know,
but
several months ago.
Yeah. The only time you can go beyond the five senses is the moment when you stop talking about the I, and it is possible through a very thorough investigation, or in a sense that you investigate who am I, and you actually look for the I, because you are referring to the I as you know what that is. But if you really looked for the I as you are referring to, would you really find it there? Would you find the I? If I told you, okay, Steve, I would really like to talk to your I and explain a few things to your I, would you be able to bring that to me and say, hey, this is my I, this is the I that I'm talking about? Would you be able to do that? If I asked you to, for example, as a homework, do and find...
you are talking to the limited version of the I right now.
Yeah, but when we really investigate
because you're doing it with your five senses right now.
So what happens when you sleep? Is there an I when you sleep? What happens then?
My sleep a lot of times are very similar to what I'm experiencing right now when I'm awake. To be honest, I'm not even sure anymore what's sleep and what's like being awake. There is no difference. I just know that when I'm sleeping, um, there are magical powers that I have that so far I haven't been able to reproduce in this other state that we are in right now, whatever it is. We call this reality, but I don't buy that. So that's it. So I know that in my sleep I can fly. I know in my sleep there's a lot of other things I can do that right now in this limited state I am not able to do, but I'm working on that. I plan on walking on water at some point.
Well, we do that up in Canada all the time.
There you go. And we know people walk on fire, right?
And lately we've been doing it a lot in Australia because we've been flooded.
So there you go.
So
Yeah.
I'm listening to the conversation and thinking, how do we assist a parent who's raising a child today to understand this phenomenon of, because I'm coaching a lot of kids right now, and the more competent they are, the more potential they have. It seems like the parent puts their hand up for coaching because there's always another side to this child that somehow can't cope with it, or the parents can't cope with it, and so the expectation of the parent comes down on this beautiful child that's so invigorated, so creative, so amazing, that I don't know how to explain this. Like for me, you were talking just a moment ago about sleeping, and I'm writing my 8th book at the moment, and I woke up this morning and I had this amazing message going on in my mind, and it was the whole dedication to my book, and it was so clear. And it's not like I was human, it's just like the universal energy was talking to me, and it was my job in a way to put it on paper so others could enjoy it. But that was something I wasn't thinking about yesterday or the day before, any part of it. So it's like there was nothing human about it.
Where is the universe? Who is the universe?
Yeah.
What are we talking about when we're referring to that?
To me, it's an energy. To me, it's an energy that brings us all together, and also that can send us beautiful messages. I love universal energy, which you might call God. Somebody else might call it something else, but the universal energy is that one spirit to me that we're all connected to. And as you say, if you're feeling like that about you, that you're God and you're this, and then all of us must be exactly the same. And if we're all exactly the same, then how do people outside get their head around this?
Well,
that's all I'm saying. It's easy for all of us to talk about it.
As far as I can tell, because I used to be one of those people, most people are running on the trial version of the software, being human beings. They're still running on they haven't upgraded yet to more functionality and more features. So they're running on trial software. So until they're ready to upgrade, I don't think you can do anything. What do you guys think, Monica and Graham?
Well, we are. Sorry, honey, you go.
Well, I don't think it's a software problem.
You don't think it's a software problem?
I think it's a hardware problem.
Okay.
Software is available. It's out there. Just something that popped into my head while you were speaking, and when what Linda was saying. Linda called it the universe, but she's not referring to the physical universe. She's referring to the spirit of everything. Mm-hmm. And you refer to an I, and you also refer to a God. To me, all three of those things are the same thing.
Same. Oh, absolutely. Okay. When somebody's talking about universe, I'm saying, okay, so if I am what I just said to you, which is I am God, then I am the universe. I'm all of it.
Yeah.
And it's all my creation.
Yeah.
Well,
so I think really what seems to be going on is through our learning process, we tweak our hardware. Well, the stuff we have to process information and do something with it. And I think that as we do that, and as we fine-tune that hardware we've been given, I think we're able to access more and more of the software that's available.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you an example that's directly related to this conversation. So I went to get my eye checked last week, and I was sitting with the doctor, and after he was done with everything he needed to do, I asked him, can I ask you a question? I'm very curious about something in regards to the eye, and since you are an expert, you're a doctor, I know you can help me understand. So I said, so I keep hearing news that we are making more and more powerful telescopes so that we can see more and more into the universe. And then I asked him to explain how the eye works, and is it true that this is just a lens? And he agreed. And he showed me how in the back of the eye it's connected, these nerve endings are connected to the brain, and the brain is really what's creating the picture. So I asked him, so how does it work when a scientist looks into this telescope? Since he has a limitation with his eye, and I was trying to, because I don't know that much about the eye, I said I know more about audio, so let me explain it that way. So I know that we humans are here between 20 hertz and 20,000 kilohertz. And so what if I could somehow adjust my hearing so I could hear under 20 and above 20,000? And dogs, we know that dogs do, and a lot of animals do. So is that possible with the eye? Can we adjust the eye to see beyond what we can see now? And he says no. He says with the telescopes, what's creating the images are computers. And when he said that, I looked at him and I said, well, what do you think this is in here?
Yeah.
This is the most powerful computer there is on the planet, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
No supercomputers existing on this planet yet that beats this.
Well, your point shows very clearly. I mean, they did experiments many years back where they showed people little strips of film, short films, and they were talking to them continually during the film, distracting them from a certain thing, and not one of the people saw one of the images in the film because they were being distracted specifically from that image. So what it comes down to is we see what we expect to see.
Mm-hmm.
When we can do away with our expectation, we'll be able to make use of the tools.
Mm-hmm.
So the mind is seeing what it's expecting to see.
Exactly, and canceling out what it's not prepared to see yet.
Yeah,
for whatever
it's
reason.
just not acknowledging that.
It's not available. Yeah.
So
it's
Graham,
very,
what you were just saying, can I just continue with my point then, because this is perfect. Graham, what you're saying then is if I've got these parents that are raising these super creative children, and these children have got this amazing energy and creativity booming through their body, to me the dilemma could be that somewhere in their psyche, the school, the university, the other people that they're exposed to can't quite get their brilliance or can't quite get their creativity because it's not always in a disciplined format.
Yeah.
And so, to me, that's where it's almost like a bipolar thing, that the child is, this is what I've been thinking about lately, because I've got all these children and they're very similar. It's amazing how similar they are in totally different families, and they've been given these amazing skills and tasks, and they can go and create music without reading anything. They can dance and flip over and do whatever they like whenever they like, and yet they don't feel good enough. According to who? You know, who gave them that scenario that said to them at some place in your life, and this is, I think, the duality that you were talking about before, Steve, is that where did they get this expression of that behavior, whatever that is, that's not in with this all creative self, is not good enough. And I'm wondering if that's a plight on parental reality. You know, I'm just trying to come to terms with this so people out there can help
I think,
explain what their kids are doing and help their kids.
yeah, I think a lot of it is, each of us gains a set of programming from the culture we were exposed to as a little kid.
Mm.
And, the culture is designed to keep us coherent and conforming to a certain
Under control.
group.
To play the game by the rules.
Yes, but this is, yeah, this is more of a survival. I'm talking about a survival mechanism, not the culture that's been superimposed on humanity by a group of clever people. So just that survival thing has its own drawbacks. It inherently has limitations. And I think we're coming to a point now where we have to start questioning that culture and that set of programming that we pass from one generation to the next without thinking about it. We need to start really understanding what we're doing. I think so much of humanity just seems to be going with the flow. Nobody really seems to be looking at all these mechanisms that are happening without really anybody taking any notice. And I think if we look at it in the right way, we may be able to adapt the cultural programming that we're passing on to children so that there isn't that huge set of expectations placed on them or restrictions placed on them, and it gives them more of a freedom to be who they really are and develop their gifts and talents and so on in their own way and at their own speed.
I think that's the problem with humanity right now on a larger scale, because we can only perceive what you just said. If we have transcended that level, it's very difficult to acknowledge the fact that we have limiting beliefs while we are playing them. We have to kind of have a mentor or even have gone through a process to look sort of in hindsight and say, oh yeah, I had a limited belief. And I think because the culture is so immersed in very, very big limiting beliefs in terms of everything. It's interesting going back to the thread that we initiated this conversation, what it means to be a human being, what it means to be successful, what it means to be alive, what life is all about. And it's so much on a survival level, the collective belief that and as a whole, the vast big chunk of humanity is still immersed in it. People like us maybe are talking about change and talking about different ways of seeing reality because we have transcended, perhaps, some of those beliefs, many of those beliefs. But yet the curve of the new thinkers is not so expressive yet to create a whole world change. So it's almost like, the fact that we're doing what we're doing now and we're engaging other people to question their beliefs, I think at one point there will be a breakthrough in which people are going to realize, oh my God, yes, we've been immersed. We should change to the next level. And I think part of the reason why things are the way they are is because people don't realize they have been immersed. People don't realize they have been living on very limiting set of beliefs, but they have been suffering a lot because of that, as a consequence of that. So I think, in a way, a lot of the suffering humanity is experiencing right now is a direct consequence of the fact that, as a whole, we are immersed in very, very limited ways of seeing ourselves, the world, our fellow humans, etc., 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 and we pass that to children as values. So,
but the suffering is our creation, and I'm speaking for myself. It's our creation. I used to suffer. I don't suffer anymore.
Well, you can go beyond suffering the moment that you can see suffering as something that you don't need to do anymore.
Yeah.
And why do you do that? Because you started to think differently. You expanded your set of beliefs.
But it's an inside job. It's not like
it is an inside job.
Not somebody like can shake you up and go, oh, okay, so now.
Yes, but a collective is an addition of a lot of individual beliefs, So like Linda, brought up parents and kids. And then Graham was talking about limiting beliefs of parents and the collective. So in a way, you have your personal beliefs, but on a larger scale, you share some collective beliefs with other people, and and that goes on and on and on. So the moment that we advance ourselves, we kind of progress in a pyramid shape of of understanding things in a more broader way. But like Ken Wilber talks a lot about that in something he calls the altitude model of consciousness, and in which he says unfortunately humanity is really stuck in a big way on a very limited model of consciousness, and some bright minds are evolving, but according to him, only 3% of the human population are vibrating on a a higher level due to more evolved beliefs, and like about 65% right now is really immersed in very, very limited beliefs that is creating the reality that we're seeing in a large scale around us in the world scene.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. But there's, talking about limiting beliefs, one of the biggest things we need to get rid of is this concept of I.
Yeah, great. I
It's a
agree.
huge obstruction. If we look at algae in the sea, they automatically start talking about a community. But as soon as we talk about humanity, we get stuck into this I thing again, and we all want to separate ourselves from everybody else and everything else, and it's just insanity. There is no separation,
Yeah.
but we create it, and then we create the problems out of that. So, just coming to terms with what's going on there is a huge sense of freedom in terms of seeing beyond that I and that individual personality, which is a hoax, by the way. I mean, our sense of identity was fed to us from the culture from when we were born. We were given a name and called that name repetitively, and then we started to build some fantasy idea about who we are on top of that. And
But those are all programs.
yeah, but we live by that program. We operate on a daily basis using this sense of identity that we've constructed, and mostly it isn't true.
And the only suffering really that is on a planet is the idea of the I, that we are the I. That's the only suffering we have. If we were able to to realize that the I does not exist, the suffering is no longer.
It's interesting because Wilber says something that I really like as well, is that the I is almost like the first stage in which we identify with. So it's I, me, mine, and then the whole world orbits around what it is that I can see as related to me. But then as we evolve in consciousness, then we started to think in terms of we, and then it's we, and this we could be our peers, our community, our neighbors, our co-workers. But then, the sense of we starts to expand, and then you say, oh, we, say, planetary beings, So, in a way, when you start to feel one with somebody who's in Africa or in Asia, then it really shows that your sense of who you are has expanded as well. So it's almost like a progression, right? Because most people are very tribal. Most people are still thinking of their big house, or they're thinking of their, bank account, or they're thinking, survival issues.
But even the sense of community is comes down to the I. Even if
How is we? I was just going to say, how is we different from I?
Exactly.
Well,
There is no
I'll give you an
different.
example. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. If something happens, right, that has a collective world effect, say for instance, the world climate, all of a sudden leaders of the whole world are getting together and saying, we need to do something about the world climate, because you know what? It's our planet. So there's something that happens that involves everybody's interest. And then we need to, do something, because it's not going to affect, this odd country around the world, the other side of the world. It's going to affect us as well. So I think the more we become global, the more we see in practice that, really, we can't separate ourselves from reality. Like right now, we are in four different cities, 3 different countries, and yet we are all together. How could we even envision a reality like that 20 years ago? It wouldn't. So I think we are moving into possibility of how...
And what's more, I'm in tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
You are. That's right.
Wednesday lunchtime. Yeah. So if anyone thinks the world's ended, they just got to ring me.
Oh, thank God. Thank you, Linda, for that.
Thank you, Linda. Yeah.
All right. So the challenge I have with this conversation is that if we are in agreement, and I'm not sure that we are, I'm sure you tell me, if we are in an agreement that in my case, I am responsible for creating everything. I am the creator. Then whatever it is that I'm experiencing, I'm responsible for and accountable for. So when we talk about these governments and we're talking about these other things, what are we talking about?
No, but I didn't mean that. I'm sorry, I'm answering that because I think you're linking with what I just said. I'm not blaming a government. I'm saying that the moment that you have a reason why people should get together, they unite in one purpose.
But
That's
what if the government? But what if, just a possibility? What if the government is your creation? What if?
But it is a collective creation. Of course it is. You vote, and other people vote. And if you are in a progressive community, for instance, the creation is probably going to be different than if you go, I don't know, to Alabama.
But I'm not playing that game, so it's not present in my reality. I'm not creating that.
Well, that's fine. It's your choice. It's good.
But again, it comes again to investigating which eye we are operating from, because in that conversation there's a hop from one eye to another eye, and it doesn't work really that way. We are oscillating within the relative reality and an ultimate reality, and actually both are happening at the same time. So practically any question that you would ask would have an answer yes and no. And on a relative level, we could answer in a certain way, but on the ultimate level, it would completely doesn't make sense. So we need to be very careful how, and I think one of the problems of the New Age kind of understanding of the world and the universe altogether is that we are using the relative and the ultimate whenever it fits us. From time to time, whenever we talk about governments and the global warming, whatever, we refer only to the relative idea of ourselves, what we believe our world is. But then whenever it's convenient for us, we go into that woohoo kind of state where everything is possible, and suddenly I am God. If we are God, then how come we cannot create the reality here that is as we would imagine? So there are the difficulty in a conversations like this is there are two things happening at the same time.
I agree. Exactly.
I think you have to get very clear on what those different eyes are, and language can be somewhat of a prison if you don't have command over it in terms of what you're talking about. Like for me, when I say I'm talking about my personality, and I've meditated on this. Which is
your ego, the other way.
It's the ego. So I meditated on this I am thing for quite some time. Actually, I spent a couple of years on it, and what I discovered is nothing fits after that. You cannot add anything to I am, because then it becomes false. I am is the ultimate truth. If you add anything to it, you make it untrue.
I actually have a show right now that a co-host of mine, his name on the show is I Am.
Yeah.
For that reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that. So
the minute the language
so let me ask you. This is an important question. I want to make sure we don't run out of time. So the question is, how important do you think, since we talked about duality at the very beginning of the show, how important do you think for people to actually face, because it's funny, this is funny, because most people just want to talk about the good stuff. They don't want to talk about their dark side. So how important do you think it is for people to really delve into their dark side and to really accept it for what it is?
Well, accepted is the tricky part, but they're doing it every day.
Doing it every day.
That's where things like weird cancers come from. You know, people get these weird things happen to them. They're healthy, they eat healthy, they exercise. Where does this stuff come from? And part of it is from this denial of our true nature.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've got, like, you know, we have, our human nature is something we can't necessarily change, but we can come to terms with it,
Mm-hmm.
and we can apply it in a way that's constructive. What happens is people deny parts of their nature, and those parts sort of, they lose control of them because they're no longer under their sense of identity, and then those things explode. They kind of, when situations arise where it's not within the norm, what those people are able to deal with or comfortable dealing with, then those disassociated parts take charge, and that's where you get this guy who's 45 acting like a 5-year-old kid at the road rage scenario. Now he's throwing toys around and screaming and shouting at the guy in the car next to him, or you know, and there's just, it's a huge subject. I mean, you could do a show just on human nature on its own.
Yeah.
It's like violence. You know, I came to terms with violence when I was pretty young. I was kind of small in school, and I got bullied a few times, and then I sort of fought back once or twice, and then I kind of looked at human nature, and I looked at how we work with violence. What is its function, and why it gets out of place. And I kind of came to terms with the whole thing. And violence seems to have just moved a step away from me for some reason. So I walked into a bar fight once where everybody was hitting everybody with chairs, and I walked right through the place and nobody touched me. And it was kind of weird, because afterwards a couple of people came over and said that was kind of odd. You know, it was kind of looked like magic. Everybody was skirting around you, but it's because I don't need that. I've had situations where I was coaching somebody and their partner didn't agree with what I said, and they flew into a rage, but they couldn't actually direct it at me, and it blew their mind because they didn't know what was happening. So yeah, I think
we all have all the traits, but here's the thing: we draw out of people that which we need for our own growth.
Absolutely.
So in a different situation, in the different scenarios with the different people, in the different circumstances, something else come out. So come out, yes. So for example, are we able to kill? Absolutely, every single one of us. If you put in danger a woman's child, she is capable of killing, right? You know, it depends in which situation we are dealing with, and we disown the parts of ourselves that we don't want to look at, and that's where the problem is of not feeling whole and complete, and that's why, because people are hiding behind the masks all the time, right?
Right.
Well, that extends to the whole thing, because you know I hear so many people talking about, you know, let's make this world better. I mean, I don't really see anything wrong with it. It's not broken.
Me either.
It's not broken.
The world is just fine, just the way it is. I don't want to change anything.
What's happening is happening for a reason. It's all busy evolving and moving forward. people are each one doing their thing at their
I'm just
pace,
doing my
discovering
thing.
who they are. And
Yeah.
you know, you can
That's funny.
try as you might. You can only offer something to somebody who is at that moment open to it, because they've moved into a space where they can accept something new. Other than that, there isn't really much we can do other than just share the information that we've
Mhm.
become
Yeah.
privy to,
And that's what we keep doing on this network.
and live by example.
So
That's-
yeah, exactly. Walk the talk. So here's the other thing that I wanted to get your feedback on. So science has discovered a lot of interesting things in the last 3 to 4 decades, and it seems to me that largely humanity just ignores it. And I can give you some examples if you don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, that would be capitalism.
No, that wasn't it. That wasn't it.
No, I'm
Well,
saying
so-
that's what's doing it. There
So
is-
give us the example, Steve.
Okay, so I'll give you an example. So we now know scientifically that when two atoms touch, there's a huge explosion. Okay, so so when you tell somebody that, do you think that's the ground you're walking on? They'll just look at you and go, "What are you talking about? Of course I'm walking on the ground." No, you're not. It has been proven that you can't touch the ground.
Yeah,
If you
you're
do,
limited.
you blow up. So things like that. It's like the public seems to ignore these scientific unfoldings about what's going on. Why do you think that is?
Well, in the big picture, it's absolutely unimportant. And it's one of the stories. It's like you said, it's kind of a part of the game, part of a puzzle, but we all have inherently built-in kind of a machine that is the universe, the consciousness itself, and it pulls us towards itself all the time. That's why we are in constant search of something. We are obviously finding certain things like scientifically or whatever, but really what we are looking for is the truth. That's the only thing we are looking for, is the ultimate truth. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, another way to kind of look at it is...
Now, religions have been built and fallen by that sentence.
Good, thank God for that. You know, it's a game. It comes and but here's the thing: that which comes and goes is not the truth. It can be a part of the truth, but the part of the truth can never be the truth. So what we are here to do is to look beyond those parts. It's to look beyond the right and wrong, to look beyond the good and bad, to look beyond the mind, to find out where the mind originates. Because what we are doing today, right now, we are really discussing concepts, some kind of a mind constructs. But what will happen if we take this a step farther and we go beyond the mind? We go to the place from which the mind originates. What happens then?
Well, I don't know how to discuss that yet. I'm working on it.
We, for example, me and Graham, we
Do you have words? Do you have words for it?
It is a possibility to express certain ideas, obviously, but the investigation itself has to be done by each person. That's why there's no teacher and there's no student. And the reason why is because no teacher can teach you really anything, because there can be guides. Somebody can guide you to go somewhere, can prompt you to show you somewhat how to operate within a certain constructs that are not possible for you to understand at the moment. But then you have to go it alone. And the ultimate goal for all of us here in this universe, I would say, is to grow and expand and evolve. Because the universe, the consciousness itself, is constantly growing and evolving. It's not about global warming. It's not about gifted children. It's not about anything. Those are just the kind of occurrences within a certain really one thing going on. There's only one thing going on.
To me, those are sub-programs.
Yeah, I think they're relative, relative realities that, they're occurring. But I think it goes back to what we are talking here. Are we talking about, the whole as absolute truth? To be honest, I think no human being will ever know or has never even tapped into what that really means because it's too big. It's beyond.
I don't think
when we think we are reaching there, there's levels and levels and levels and levels because the size of the universe is.
But how do you know? How do you know that?
No, I don't. That's what I'm saying. Exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that I don't know, and if anybody says they know, it's probably not exactly true because it's too immense. It's infinite. It's absolutely infinite. And because we don't have the experience of infinity ourselves, we could not ever say we know it because, we were born in a dimension that it has limits. Even if we had gone far away with our experiments, but there will be the edge of the edge at the edge of the edge because the universe is infinite. Therefore, we're all dealing with relative reality most of the time, even though it's not it.
Well, here's the thing.
In one aspect, what we call the absolute can also be relative to the point up to which we think we have achieved. But then from that point onwards, that is in infinity.
Here's the thing. The absolute and the relative exist at the same time.
Of course. That's why. That's why.
Most people, most humanity, 99% of it exists only in the relative understanding of it. So, and here's another thing that you kind of touched upon. Me, Monica, Graham, you, or Steve,
you forgot Linda.
Oh, sorry, Linda, because you already transcended.
Can't leave her out.
You're in tomorrow. Listen, you're in tomorrow. Neither of us can get it. That's the number one mistake that people are making when trying to achieve enlightenment. Monica will never wake up. Monica will never get enlightened. However, I am the consciousness and the enlightenment already.
Yeah.
But only through the process of investigation and finding whether the I even exists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can make that statement because I can see the ultimate I am and the Monica that exists within that space at the same time. And that is really our sort of a goal to realize that. But again, the realization of that is not even really true, because in order for you to realize, there would have to be you to realize. And there is no you, because if you investigate and you start to looking for you, for the I, there is no I. Therefore, nobody can realize. And how can you know that? At this point, I would definitely assume, and rightfully so probably, that it comes with in one ear and comes out the other ear. It's a huge, long process. And there is probably a handful of people on the whole planet within the thousands of years that got smacked upside the head and they immediately had that experience. But there is a group of people who were able to investigate, and through the life investigation, they were able to have a glimpse of that.
Well, what if I said to you that, and I think I said it on the show earlier, that I am the programmer and I am the program.
Yeah.
Because I've had that realization 2 months ago.
Good for you, Steve. Good for you, Steve. I will just leave it at that.
Yeah. I would say that it's a very good thing to say, and I think there's more to that. I think there's even more other aspects that you will get into as you go deeper and deeper into that realization. I think it's there's more to that. Yeah, there's definitely more to that.
one of the things that I've sort of I spent quite a number of years studying spirituality from a number of different cultures and sources, and I think one of the things that we kind of miss is that in the past, many people kind of dedicated their entire lives just to get that glimpse and then tried to push further and further and further. I think the thing has shifted for us now, whereas we're supposed to take that glimpse and somehow incorporate it into a normal human life.
Yeah.
I just want to have chuckles. What I boiled this whole experience down to for me is I just want to have chuckles. That's all I want to do.
It's about integrating those things.
And we have certainly done it on this show.
You are something, Mr. Todd.
You guys are absolutely amazing. Oh my God, this was amazing. Well, Graham and Monica, thank you very much for being on the network.
It's a pleasure.
This has been absolutely awesome. I mean, I was so fascinated throughout the entire show. I was like on the seat of on the edge of my seat here, just like I am in a movie theater, waiting
Steve,
for what's going to come. What?
We didn't even scratch the surface.
Yeah, let's do it again sometime.
Well, we can do it again. There's no limitation,
Absolutely.
We're going to be around into infinity. So, and I said on the network that I'm going to live for 400 years. So I'm going to be around for a while.
Good for you.
And I have the right also to change my mind at 400 if I want to live to 1,000.
399.
They say it starts getting kind of boring at 200.
How do you know?
You start to feel away at 200, right?
Well, you guys have been fascinating, and of course the cast as well. Linda, thank you for all your shares, and same for Susie. You guys have been incredible. I really enjoyed the show. Fantastic. Thank you for being on, and for everybody out there in the YouTube world. The more you watch this show, and also any of the other shows, and we have thousands of them on our YouTube channel. Keep watching. The more you watch them, they get up to the top 10 each month. When they get there, the show may end up on public television or goes to cable TV. Thank you so much for being here. I love you all. See you tomorrow on another network show at the usual. Not tomorrow. Sorry, Thursday, 7 p.m. Mountain. Thank you, guys, ladies.
Bye. It was a pleasure.
Good night.
Bye.
Like to chat. Bye-bye.
Good to see you again.
Bye.